Okay, welcome to Traxmaker Pro. Let's open the program. If you go to where the program is stored, in this case it's on the memory stick you were given. Open the folder and find the application file, Traxmaker. Double click on it and this is what you should see on your screen. Let's take a look at some of the basic features of this program. It is a very simple program using an older form of Windows layout, but some of the familiar tabs will be there, such as to open a file, to start a new file, cut, paste, copy. We've got various zoom options here, but some of the more important buttons is this one here, where we can actually place a string of text, we can place a component, we can place a track, we can place a pad, and there are one or two others, but these are the most common ones. Likewise, you've got some shortcut buttons. To place a pad, you simply press P. You can then choose the pad shape and the pad size. To place a component, you can either click on this button here or you can press the letter C, and it will then come up with a whole range of components. Some of them will be looking quite familiar as you scroll through them. To place a track, you simply either press the letter T or click on this button here. This is the workspace, this grey space here, and you can see that there is a grid on there already. You can snap to the grid or you can work freely with no restrictions. You can also adjust the size of the grid also in the setup pages. Now let's take a look at a real circuit board. What you're seeing now is the top layer of a normal circuit board. You can see one component is going through the holes to the other side. That's the component or top layer. What you're seeing now is the underside of the board, or the bottom layer. This is where the tracks and pads are etched out of the copper. If we take a closer look at the circuit board, you can see through the overlay, through the component layer, and you can see the tracks underneath. This is the view that you will actually have to visualize as you construct your board in the program. Now let's get rid of these lines. I can click on each track that I've made and I can press the delete button, or I can actually highlight several tracks at once just by holding down the left mouse button and dragging across and then pressing delete. Now those lines have gone. We can also zoom in and out of our page. So if I place a really basic track down in the bottom left corner, and right click to stop doing it, I can now zoom up and down by using the page up button. And as you can see, we can zoom in quite closely. We can also toggle between layers. Each circuit board has different layers, which we'll discuss next. At the moment I'm on the bottom layer. So let's take a closer look at our grid. First of all, I'm going to get rid of this stuff here. If we go into the Setup tab and go onto Grid, you can see that we can actually determine how large the grid will be. The visible grid at the moment is in English thousandths of an inch, or mils, and the definition is at 100 thou, or 0.1 of an inch. So each one of these dots here is 0.1 of an inch or 100 thou apart on both the X and Y axis. Our auto snap function can snap to 1/4 of that, so every 25 thou we can snap, which is quite handy when you're trying to line up components. It's advised that you work in imperial because all components come with lead spacings at 0.1 increments of an inch. It's handy to use metric though when we want to set up perhaps exact dimensions of our board out perimeter. So let's do that. I'm going to make a board that is 50mm by 50mm square, and a good way to do this is to switch to metric and maybe make the snap grid 5mm, go OK, and then I'm going to do a top layer because I'm not going to need that later. Let's go draw track. Let's start here. $50mm by 50mm. I'm using the coordinates shown on the bottom left of the screen. Escape. That is the area of my circuit board that I can now work in. But when I put down tracks, of course, I'm going to use the bottom layer because that is the layer that the copper is on. Now when I go to put a track down, it will show in blue as if I'm looking through the board to the underside.